Hi, this is Eli Kranzberg, and in this video we're going to take a look at Sharine by Wavesfactory. It's a sample library that's made for Kontakt, and it's based on a dozen different shakers and tambourines. Now, what's special about this instrument is that it includes the pre-roll or pre-shift of each sample. So what that means is, when you're playing a shaker or tambourine, there's not just the note-on event, but leading up to the note as you move your hand back or forth, there's the sound of the beads or the rings on the tambourine kind of triggering in advance of the main note. So this faithfully captures that. So you can sync the notes up to the grid, but the lead into the notes are reproduced and triggered in advance of the anchored positions that you've got your notes quantized to. Now, another unique thing about this instrument is that it includes 3 mic positions for each sound. So as well as volume, pan, and pitch, we can adjust the different mic placements and choices. Plus, there's a really nice sequencer in here. Now let's look at the GUI. We can load and purge the individual instruments simply by clicking on them and activating or deactivating them with their little spotlight icon. So let's say I want to get rid of the tambourines and just hear a couple of the shakers. You just click like that and it loads and purges simply by clicking. Now, we also can alt-click on each instrument, and that brings up a panel for volume and pan and pitch of each one, so you can tune them. And let's say I want to alt-click that again to close it, and I'll alt-click this one and pan that one differently and maybe tune that one differently. And we can hear a pattern with these sounds. For example. Now we can access the mics in this mixer panel. So the close mic is a mono mic, and the mid one and far one are stereo mics and different distances. Now the way the width knob works is that when it's turned to the right like this, it's hard panned left and right. And as we move it up to the center, it sums it to mono. And as we dial it left, it'll spread it to the stereo image again, but flip the left and right sides. And of course, this one only has the panning since it's mono. And we can route to individual outputs within Kontakt. So let me click that again to close it, and we'll look at the keyboard. Now you see different shaded keys here. The green keys are 7 patterns that are pre-mapped, and we can alter those in the sequencer, but basically you just trigger them, and it'll trigger whatever is selected. And again, I'm just randomly turning some on and off. We can mix in tambourines. So those are 7 pre-mapped patterns. Now the blue keys are for the individual articulations. When we hit C3, it triggers the hand going forward for the shaker or left for the tambourine. And the D is the opposite. And the E is an accent. And we have rolls mapped to the red keys. And the top 2 keys are the tambourines hit with a drumstick. And the question mark icon will bring this mapping up so you can see that the patterns are green, the articulations are blue, and then the hits and rolls are on the red, and then these 2 are sticks. Now the sequencer is where we can really take advantage of all this pre-roll scripting so that you get the lead into each note. It only works when we're using the sequencer. It doesn't work when we're triggering these live multi-samples. So you can see it's a bipolar kind of table here. The positive bars mean that the shaker goes forward or the hand goes left on the tambourine, and the negative bars mean the shaker goes backwards and the tambourine hand goes to the right. And a full bar to top is the accent articulation. So we can draw them in manually like this, and we can switch between the patterns simply by going through the selector here, and you can see each pattern has slightly different articulations mapped. Now, in order to get the pre-roll effect, we can turn it on or off here, and we have a choice. When it's on, it means that Sharine knows the amount to offset each sample so that the main transient matches up with the grid and the pre-roll part will happen before it. But if we don't want to do that, we can use a static offset so that the sample will trigger early. Or we can bring this all the way up into auto mode, which will, again, automatically place the offset so that the transient triggers up. I'm going to leave this on for now. These are kind of mutually exclusive. They don't work together. We can add a bit of a swing feel if we want, and we can switch the presets by hitting the key on the keyboard as well. So it's not just with the dial. We can choose the number of steps that we want in the pattern, and we can have it trigger in eighths or sixteenths or quarter notes and different triplet variations. So We can also record our own patterns. Now I'm going to play something for you here. I have a little C pattern triggered up. So let's go back to C and we'll just see and listen and hear it. So there it is, a 16th. Now we can create our own pattern. I'm going to click the record button, which basically erases the pattern, and I can either draw it in with the mouse or hit the C and D articulations. So let's hear what that sounds like. I can Alt-click on this and that'll clear it. And I can start again. And again, I can draw it in if I want. Let's hear that. Here I started on the alternate sample. And again, we can alter it however we want. So it's a lot of fun to play with and get the samples that you want triggered when you want. It's good to have some of the hard accents. Kind of a halftime feel. And here's what it is with the pre-roll off and sample offset set to auto. So that works great, and again, we can change the instrumentation as we want. So it really works nicely, and a nice little bonus is that we get the individual instruments as well. So if you want to just work with one at a time, you can just call up the individual ones like that, and we get the same panel with the mixer, sequencer, keyboard, etc. So Sharine, I think it's a great instrument from Wavesfactory, and as a bonus, we get their rack effects, so we can add in any or all of these fabulous sounding plugins and process our sounds like that. So it's a great library of shakers and tambourines, a great way to get the nuances of what happens before the main articulations of these notes, and I highly recommend it. And this is Eli Kranzberg signing out.